when you say, I wanted to please my parents and make them feel good, to assuage some of the grief that they were feeling, that's personal. That could be anyone's story and anyone's desire. But the pressure to make it, the constant feeling that wherever you are, instantly you need more, lest you become a non-achieving black gay man with a lot of credentials. That cannot be separated from the societal and the cultural framework in which it exists, and history.
Hi, Esther. Since I was a kid, so much of my validation came from titles. Being labeled gifted and talented, hearing I was destined for great things. I did what we were told would lead to success. Go to school, work hard, follow the rules, follow the right path, quote unquote. After college, I became a reporter on television. I thought it would be as exciting as it looked, but it wasn't, and it took me years to grieve that path that I left behind. But even doing the right thing didn't protect me from layoffs, detours, or breakup. The realization that achievement doesn't always bring security or happiness. My ambition has even shaped my relationships. In one, my constant focus on what's next sometimes created a distance I couldn't close. When I'm achieving, I feel validated. When I'm not, I sometimes feel restless and unsure of who I am without something to chase. So my question is, how do I start to separate my identity and self-worth from my professional achievements? And how do I redefine success in a way that still feels meaningful without it being the only thing that defines me?
Anything you want to add, change?
No, I don't think so.
So then let's start from the beginning of your question, right?
Okay.
I was raised and told always that I'm gifted, talented, and that I'm going to do big things, and I should start to work on it from day one. What's the context to this?
I think the biggest context, is for me growing up in a world where I think I've equated a lot of my value to what I can achieve.
But how did you learn that connection? From where?
I would say probably starting at home. It's like, being agreeable is the thing. It's like you do well, you get rewarded. If you don't do well, there's always an expectation that I do well.
Was the whole family high achieving, or the expectation was put on you?
I think the whole family, like my sister was valedictorian. And part of it too is I lost my older brother when I was 10. He was 7 years older than me. So he passed away. And so a lot of, I think,
From?
oh, he was killed. He was shot. He was killed.
That's not the same as he passed away.
That's right.
That's a very different kind of loss.
Yeah.
And he was killed because what?
He was really an innocent bystander.
Okay.
He was leaving work with his coworker. He was working at a mall, and the coworker had a stalker ex-boyfriend who was older than her by a significant margin. And the boyfriend came and killed them both. I guess he was targeting her, but my brother was next to her. So.
Oh, no. So achievement after that loss was?
Well, I think for me, it was always, I saw academic achievement and professional pursuit as a way to sort of work through the grief, as a way to sort of keep people happy, get people happy. Yeah.
Keep people from starting with my parents.
Sure.
I will give them something to celebrate, and it will ease the pain of the loss of my
Sure,
brother.
sure.
Were you aware of that? Was it a conscious?
No, not at 10, at 11, 12. Now older, I can look back in hindsight and think and say that and recognize that. But then, no, it was just, you get all A's, you get an award, you get something for that. But it wasn't conscious at that point. It's just sort of the expectation. And I think, part of it too in this society, being black in a society, you're taught you have to do twice as much to get half
Yep.
as much. And so that pressure as well.
Yes, I was about to ask, what's the connection for you on a personal level with race? I don't want to make any assumptions.
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's part of it, is there's a compensation for race. There's a pressure to be, you see black excellence and often, and that's sort of a theme. And so you want to be seen as excellent, but a lot of that is external validation. I'm getting to a point now where I don't care as much. But it was about the next award, getting the job title, going to the best schools if you could, in order to be seen as excellent and I guess acceptable in a lot of circles to a lot of people.
But that is not only, by far, not only a personal pressure. That's a societal pressure. This I need to achieve. I mean, there may be a family layer, and then there may be a personal layer, but there's also majorly a societal layer to this message. I mean, black excellence does not exist with other names in the front like that,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really a cultural thing. I think obviously it comes through a history of what we
Yes,
experience,
yes.
but there comes a certain pressure with that. And then where I live,
Huge pressure.
yeah, huge pressure, and there are a lot of pushback. There's a lot of pushback on what that means. But I think
What
for
do you
me,
mean? What do you mean when you say that?
a lot of pushback. So some people, push back against this notion of black excellence. Like you can be excellent and not have a master's. You can be excellent and not have a college education. You can be excellent and just have a normal, quote unquote, normal job. For me, I don't think I've ever had a quote unquote normal job. I've always had these roles that were seen as sort of sexy. Then I was always disillusioned when I got them. So
But did you see them as sexy, or did you see them as fulfilling the requirement?
Both. Is that yeah, both, I think.
I won't tell you yes, no.
I know.
You, you're describing your life.
I'm describing my life, yeah. I would say both.
It's like the job I should like because it looks good
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
I am drawn to this as well. They may be both, but there needs to be at least the and me too.
Yeah. And like, for example, I was drawn to doing television because I thought that I was something I was good at. I was good at communicating. But there was an element of it that was there's a little bit of, I think, ego in the best way to say that you want to be on TV every day, And so, yes, it looks sexy, but it was also something that I knew that I wanted to do. But that was also a little bit of something imposed upon me. It was like, you should do this job. People thought, you should be a reporter. You should be on television, coming up. I was always on the school news show or something like that, But when I got in it, I was deeply, and this is during the pandemic. So it was deep disconnection, during that time. And I was just like running myself into the ground doing that job. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for, what I thought it would be.
Do you think it would have been different if you had started at a different time?
I did start a little bit before the pandemic, a year prior, but even then I said, this is not it. But the pandemic sort of exacerbated that.
And it's not it because of the nature of what you were doing, or it's not it because it doesn't fix the chronic optimization, the chronic racial optimization too, for that matter, that I am constantly under. So no job is ever good enough to finally make me stop the race. It's like the race for the race.
Yeah, I think I have a chronic of a feeling of this is just not enough. Like I need to do more. Something's always I need something else new, something more than this. Boredom can be a big part of it. So I do think there are a couple of factors. So yes, the job itself is just burnout central, low pay.
but then also just like, okay, what's next? I have to get to the next place. Like, I'm done living where I'm at now. This is too small. This is too stressful or too whatever. And it's time for me to get to the next point in my life, to the next venture. So even when I was reporting, I was also working on a graduate degree. And most people say, how in the world were you doing that? But, it was like, what's new? What's next? I have to move on to the next thing.
So your question is not what do I want to do? Your question is how do I create a situation, and can I, where no matter which I choose, it doesn't stay trapped in the cycle of proving myself constantly, needing more because the minute I slow down, it looks like I'm no longer in the black excellence trajectory. And I
Sure.
have all these enormous pressures on me.
Yeah, that's the better frame.
Do you share this with other
Oh my
fellow
God.
people?
All of us.
Huh?
I said all of us.
All of
Yes.
you. Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness,
Because this
yes.
is huge. This is
Oh my
you're
goodness.
not meant to ever. I mean, not that I don't think you know that, but sometimes people have a tendency to keep these things to themselves, and then it becomes even further exacerbated because now it's a solitary lament and pressure versus if I come together with other people, my group and other groups, and we talk about these pressures and we talk about us in society, then it's less an issue of jobs and careers, and it's really when is enough enough.
Yeah.
So tell
What's good
me,
enough?
yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about the solidarity that you have.
I think a lot of my closest friends, we've come to the point, even before 30, recognizing, I guess, again, this is where disillusionment comes up around society. When we say what we were promised, coming up, you go to the right schools, get the grades, go, you get the job, but that's not the case. And I think we've realized that now more acutely now during the pandemic and coming out of that with layoffs and friends I know, like myself, like nobody would have told me I would have been laid off 3 times in 3 years, in effect, because I got all the things. Or like my friends who've been in similar situations who've been out of work for a year now, but they
Wow.
have all the things, all the
Yeah.
degrees, all the connections, and just general. And my friends who've not been in that situation, but who have also
The
had
pressure.
a sort of pressure and really mourn the loss of dreams that they thought they'd have, or they're not in the place where they thought they'd be. So yeah, we have these conversations like one to one, but we don't have these conversations like
In a
out the
group?
open in a group. We're like Instagram, you're doing fabulous. You're in the trip.
No, but at some point, so as you're speaking, I'm thinking, what does this young black man, talented and well supported, expect from this middle-aged Jewish European woman? What can she bring to him? How can she help him with this dilemma? I'm very curious.
I don't
What
know. I
led
just
you to think, I want to discuss this with Perel?
well, I've just admired your work. I don't know. You're really insightful in terms of relationships to the self, relationships to how you relate to the world. I think over the course of the year, your work has helped me tremendously, not just in the relationship to with like myself, but even like when I was in a relationship. I remember my therapist told me about your work and how you put language to a lot of the things that I was experiencing during that time. I was really young when I got in my first relationship. I was 22 and we were together for over 5 years and it ended. And, it's hard, being same gender loving, black, and all these expectations, in my first relationship. So a lot of my achievement also had to do with that too.
You were same age?
Yeah, yeah, about 6 weeks apart, really, and grew up together. We knew each other for like 20 years, and so a lot of
Still connected?
no, 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 not at all. No,
No
not
connection.
connected. No, haven't heard from. But a lot of your work gave a lot of language to what I was experiencing at that time, and it's been a long journey on that front too, navigating who I am outside of the context of relationship, especially coming up in my 20s, in college, and then having we moved to a whole nother city together and started a life there. There's a huge developmental thing happening, then it ends, and so I had to figure out who I am, career. And then remember when the breakup happened the same week, the relationship ended. So I'm like in chaos.
The breakup and the relationship ended the same week as?
Around the same time.
As what?
Oh, I'm sorry. The same time I got laid off from a job. So I got laid off the same week the breakup ended. So it was like...
That's a week you will remember.
It's a week I will remember. So yeah, you just give good language. So that's why, to answer your question.
But we are trying to put language on pressure. Is that how you... Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm not going to put language. We are going to create language together.
Okay.
Because I think it will be more useful to you if we find the right words together. And we may change them, I may suggest things. But I don't think you can talk about the desire for achievement outside of the context of the pressure on Black excellence. If you try to just make it an individual conflict, it's not right. It's not correct, and it's not fair to you. Because it's internalizing an entire system. When you say, I wanted to please my parents and make them feel good, to assuage some of the grief that they were feeling, that's personal. That could be anyone's story and anyone's desire. But the pressure to make it, the constant feeling that wherever you are, instantly you need more, lest you become a non-achieving Black gay man with a lot of credentials. That cannot be separated from the societal and the cultural framework in which it exists, and history. What do you think of the words so far?
That's about right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that there is the personal, and then there is the larger context, so that the interpersonal structures that we live in. I found myself, I think, too, just trying to figure out how do I come of age in this world with all my different identities, and how do I fit into the world?
Are you in your 20s or in your 30s?
20s, I'll be 30 next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is an iterative process. What I am more cautious about for you is that you not translate the pressure into, this is boring. This is not what I expected. I'm disillusioned by the job. And you think that it has to do with the job rather than with an internalized system of pressure. Because then you're never gonna actually enjoy what you do. So you can go to the things you want the most, or you can go to the things that you know have cachet and status. It doesn't really change anything if what defines them is, am I holding up to the standard? So I don't look like somebody who's not driven, who's lazy, who's this, who's that, whatever, all the stuff Black people have had to hear and endure.
I never want to be seen as lazy, and that's one thing.
Yes, yes.
Never want to be seen as lazy. And I remember, I have had to contend with, it's like even when I was in a relationship, like the feeling that I was putting a lot more energy into my professional life or my pursuits than into the relationship. That was a sticking point. This desire not to be seen as like not doing anything. I have a hard time like resting. And anybody who knows me knows I'm always doing something.
Yes, but look, a lot of people can say, I have a hard time resting.
Mm.
A lot of people can say, if I don't do anything, I feel lazy. But it doesn't have the same meaning than when a black person says it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are not many other groups that have had to confront this constant epithet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say, how do I sit still and be? How do I find legitimacy in just being and not in doing? How do I feel that I deserve a rest? I mean, the whole world was created with a day of rest.
That's right.
You know, how do I experience the right, the legitimacy? How do I experience that entitlement in the good sense of the word? To just be in the world without this running drone ruminating constantly in my head, not allowing me to take a deep breath in and out, and not have any expectation on me and any pressure on me and any rant in my head telling me, get up, do this, that, lazy, that, firing constantly. And how is not something that I'm going to say something that's going to help you do this instantly. I don't believe that. But there will be a frame where you gradually, every time you find this pressure, you find a way to actually say, I can be. I have a right to just be.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is an act of resistance, by the way. It's not just some statement of well-being.
Yeah. And I never understood when people talk about just be.
Yeah.
Choose yourself. What does that mean in this world? You
It
know, you
means
just
that
have
you
to
feel worthy of your existence, even when you're not proving that you deserve to exist.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Is that
that's a good friend. Yeah.
put
That's
it in
I
your
think
own words. I'm lending you mine, and then you put it in yours.
the way that I think about this is I don't have to prove myself with my worthiness. My worthiness is inherent, is the way that I would think about that. And it's not something to prove. But that's also like for me, like just from a deep
Can you believe this?
oh God.
You just
On a
said it, but
mental I can make a mental assent to it.
on an all level, on a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level, can you imagine that this is not just a statement? Because we can say things to convince ourselves. When we are convinced, we often don't need to say it. We live it. And I think it's developmental. I don't think that you wake up one morning and you have it. So say it again.
My worth is inherent and I don't have to prove myself to be worthy.
Say it again.
My worth is inherent and I don't have to prove myself to be worthy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I resonate with that, and I think that applies just in every area. Not just we talked about career, but that's just one symptom or one aspect of a relationship. So that's any type of relationship, whether that's friendships or romantic relationships or family.
You feel it everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you feel it now when you said it, or you just said that makes sense?
Maybe I intellectualized too much. I do feel it. So I'm like on a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level. On a mental level, yes. On a spiritual level, I do believe that, from where my grounding is spiritually, I believe that about everybody. Sometimes it's difficult for me to sometimes even, I can see that in somebody else, but not in myself all the time. And that's also something that I'm trying to also mentally work through. Like, how do I can see that somebody else doesn't have to prove themselves, or they have inherent value. They don't have to work harder. But for me, it's like, nope, you have to work harder. So it is for me what that statement that I made. I'm inherently worthy, and I don't have to prove my worth.
Do you have close friends?
I have a lot of close friends. Yeah.
Do you ever say stuff like that to each other?
Not all the time.
No,
Some
not
we,
all the time, but do you?
yeah, sometimes.
Because that's one way to have each other's back. When you live in a shared reality, is to remind each other of the things that you know that you see in the other and that is challenging for yourself. Sometimes I say, if your best friend was talking to you, or if you were talking to your best friend, either way, what would you be saying? If they say, I can't sit still, the minute I sit still, it's as if I sink in this truth of laziness and of not enough and of what? Fill in the blank.
More tangibly, more money, not enough money, not enough time. And I think that's true. The money thing is something that we do talk about that all the time. It's like, I went to school, I don't have enough money, I need to sell my house, I need to sell my car, I need to do all these things. So some people don't feel like they have enough love in their lives, whether that's romantic or otherwise, but it's not enough love or there's not enough support. Those are all things that come up sometimes in conversation.
And you?
And for me, certainly not enough money. You can always make one more dollar. And that's that chase of capitalism, that we deal with. I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. I feel like I'm in a rush. I realize I'm still young, and some people might listen and say, "What are you talking about?" But sometimes I feel like I'm running out of time to do the next thing, whatever that thing is. I don't even know what the next thing is. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, would I be in the position I am now, I would have not believed you.
As in?
Well, 5 years ago, I thought I would not be working an office job. I thought I would have been still in TV, doing that career path.
Do you like what you do now?
I sometimes, only because it's slower than what I'm used to. But I do like it. I do like it. I think in the past I was always attracted to things that kept me going, movement. But now working at an office job, there's a sense of this. Sometimes boredom sets in.
Is it a step on the way to something?
And that's the thing. Everything's a step on the way to something for me.
But that's okay. This is when I say developmental, that means you are in your 20s. And so we can have a piece of the conversation that is very much about you, race, pressure, existential elements related to work. But then there is the developmental arc, what I want to do, what I should do, what I should do a little bit of so that I can get to what I want to do, the stuff I do because it has meaning for me versus the stuff I do because it is more remunerated, the stuff that fits my identity, and the stuff that I think gives me the credentials for the next thing. I mean, there's all these considerations, and I see those in also very much in a developmental arc, There is what you choose to do, and then there is what life puts in front of you and chooses you.
That's right. Yeah. And I think I've been in that latter camp. What chooses me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow people often struggle with that one, as if there's something wrong with the fact that I've done the stuff that kind of fell in my lap, or I've done the stuff that people have sought me out for. I don't know that I necessarily think that is problematic. Maybe because that happened to me too. And I mean, I came to this country and some things I could choose, but the majority of things I kind of took what I could get for a long time. And then I took things that presented themselves to me. And did I sometimes like them? No, sometimes I did them for convenience. Sometimes I did them for money. And sometimes I did them because they were a springboard. And sometimes I thought that I would like it and then I didn't. So our conversation is on multiple tracks. A piece of it is you're out of school and now the world hits you. And now you get the reality of what working in this society and in this labor market actually looks like.
Yeah.
And there often is a disillusionment that because you also have been steeped in a society that pumps you with the idea of following your passion and choosing things, and it's your freedom and you can be what you want, and all these mega statements which are filtered through a cultural lens for you too and a racial lens, but they're still you know they're in the background of, they play the bass.
For sure.
So where we are now in our conversation, if I asked you, what's the question that you bring today? And if you fine-tuned it, what would it be?
I guess the simple way is like, how do I make peace with being enough or recognizing that I'm enough?
I don't have an answer for you on that one. Let me start with that. But I would like to ask you, have there been moments when you have it?
Have not felt like I was enough? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Great. Tell me some of them. Because if you've had the experience,
yeah,
you know, if I answered you this, it would be some bunch of generalities. I mean, I don't have that kind of presumptive knowledge. But you may have had that experience. And so let's see what wisdom we can draw from those exceptional moments.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of ways I can go with this.
Great.
I think when I look at over the last couple years, I mentioned layoffs, you know, how challenging it is to get a job rejection. I must not be enough for these people.
If I was truly good, they would have laid off someone else.
If I was truly black excellent, black and excellent, they would have chosen me, right? So I put all the work in school and life. I'd have all the experiences. So if I was truly excellent, then they would have chosen me. If I was truly, you know, in a relationship, you know, they could have chosen me. They could have stayed.
Are you with someone now?
No. Oh no, we're on hiatus. I'm on hiatus.
You're on hiatus. So there is someone now, but you're on hiatus.
Or there's nobody.
There's nobody. Okay. You're on a romantic hiatus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's best. That's another session. But you know, if I perform, so I think part of the, you know, when I was independent therapy, like my own therapist, we talked a little bit about like at the end of my relationship, you know, like still cooking and walking the dog, you know, as a way to perform enoughness. So that's how it's come up for me, you know, between jobs, or like if I do more, then that will make things work.
And have you had moments when you have had glimpses into that enoughness? When a certain calm sits in, when a certain self-acceptance, when a worthiness, being, all of that.
I think that comes up most when I'm around the people I love, you know, when there is not a performance, whether that's friends or family, you know.
Tell me about your parents, because you mentioned your brother, your sister, or whichever parents.
Yeah, my mom primarily raised me. My dad is in the picture, but I was also raised, you know, my grandparents played a big role in that as well. My growth and
your mother's parents.
My mother's parents, yeah.
And your father, was he in your life at all or not?
Yeah, he was. I mean, we didn't live together. He didn't do the primary day-to-day raising. It was my mom and my grandparents for the most part.
But somebody can be in your life and have not been the one to raise you.
That's right. I would say I was raised by teachers,
right? So
and mentors and church people and the whole community of people.
But a parent can be very present by their absence. So how present was he?
Weekends here and there.
You're giving me the concrete
The
answer.
concrete. Oh, I see.
You know, you know where I'm going.
Not emotionally present.
But does he have a big presence in your life, in your internal life?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The voice, people talk about the voice you hear in your head, like your parents' voice. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now that I'm older, like now that I've come into my own belief systems, like we're like polar opposites, I lean more left. He's way over here right sometimes. So there's a difference there too.
So mom was the primary parent with grandparents and teachers.
Correct.
Any particular teacher that became the light that...
I have so many. I call my other moms.
Okay.
I can't even pinpoint one because there's so many who I could
You're blessed.
call
Beautiful.
and just.
You still call them?
Oh yeah, I still talk to my middle school teachers.
Okay, fantastic.
And we go out and
And do you ask them the question that you ask me?
I don't. I'm not.
That would be my assignment to you. You are surrounded by people who have asked themselves the very question that you're asking, and have the benefit of time, age, and experience to give you a sense of how they zigzagged through this challenge. How do I feel enough and experience a moment of deserving, of worthiness, without having to constantly have to prove myself as a black man? Maybe not all the teachers are black.
None of them are men.
None of them are men. So we need to find other men in your circles. Older men.
I still talk to my grandfather who's like 86. We talk every day. So
Great. And have you ever asked him?
I've not had that kind of. I never had that question.
You have. This is an example of resilience, where you actually tap into the resources of your family and your community, and you ask them, how have they mastered these existential societal challenges? How have they dealt with adversity? How have they dealt with racism? How have they dealt with being laid off? How have they dealt with job uncertainty? How have they dealt with job changes? I mean, all the things that you are experiencing. You have a beautiful community. You have a rich community of people. That's the first ones you turn to. And you ask them those very questions, because I would really not be surprised to know that every single one of them has had those very same questions. How do you deal with this idea that if I was really, really excellent, I would not have been the one laid off? It would have been somebody else maybe, or they would have kept me, which many people have, but you get it with an extra. It's not an uncommon reasoning of driven people to say, I should be here. But at the same time, as I say I should be here, there is a voice that says, maybe I'm not good enough to be here. Otherwise, I would be here. And that many of us can relate to. I can relate. Been there. But within your context, it has a whole other layer and a whole other historical weight. And that doesn't mean you go to do therapy sessions with your folks. It just says, I have some questions. I'm just really curious. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's dealing with this. And you're 80-something. You must have had this over and over in your life. what can you share with me? Or even with your friends, even if one day, and more than one for that matter, when you just say, guys, I met this woman with an accent. She told me, she gave me a strange assignment. And she said, she had a question for all of you, and she made me ask it, because it's a relief sometimes when this stuff finally enters into the public square.
Yeah. And that's what's helped me. I think understanding that, like, grief, all these heavy, even joy and grief, all these heavy emotions are the way that we experience. Like, what's helped me is realizing, like, I'm not alone in any of it. And so the more I share, the more it sort of normalizes it.
Absolutely.
And the more that I've been able to, like, move forward. So when you talk about the challenging breakup and the layoff in the same week, to talk about the grief surrounding that, and all my friends and family was like, I've dealt with the same thing. I've seen it. I've been through divorce. And people will reveal things that I'm like, I did not have any idea.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
had no idea.
Yes.
Like, you've been married before?
Right. All the skeletons come out.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. But it doesn't have to be just when you're in the midst of an acute crisis. It's easier to do it when you're in the midst, because it kind of blurts out of you. But I think actually when you calmer, when there's not an imminent situation, to then just say, how do you deal with this? What's helped you? What's worked for you? Who do you reach out to? And sometimes people don't have pity answers, this is how you do it. But there is something in the solidarity that is huge. Feeling I'm normal, feeling I'm not alone, feeling people learn to live with it. And they turn certain things around, and they surround themselves. I mean, the most important thing is they surround themselves so that they can't personalize it and make it about themselves only. Sometimes I think these kinds of complex problems are actually not problems that we solve, but paradoxes that we manage.
It's like living in that ambiguity, or living in that gray space, or that liminality.
Yeah.
And I think that's the discomfort, is for me, sitting, like, how do you sit in that paradox?
This is a lifetime learning. Because at first you're really angry every time you are laid off, or every time you thought you wanted something and then it turned out not to be the thing you wanted. And then gradually you develop clarity, kindness, compassion, solidarity, ability to live with the complexity, the imperfections,
the contradictions.
And slowly, what you hope to not get into is a defeat. I'll never be able to prove it, so I may just as well stop trying. Versus, I don't really need to prove it. And I'll continue to try because it's what I like and it's who I am, but not to the degree of an imagined world outside that needs to accept me, validate me. I'll turn to people who do validate me, black or white or any other color, for that matter. The validation can come from everywhere. How does that sound to you?
It sounds great. And it resonates with me on every level. Outside of career, this touches every part of my life. So the recognition that I can continue life, without validation, external validation being the driving force, or being the thing that is the linchpin behind why I show up or how I show up.
Yes, certainly less of it. I don't think it's an all or nothing, but it becomes less, what you call it, the linchpin.
Well, thank you so much.
You too. Thank you very, very much.
This was an Esther calling, a one-time intervention phone call recorded remotely from 2 points somewhere in the world. If you have a question you'd like to explore with Esther, it could be answered in a 40 or 50-minute phone call. Send her a voice message and Esther might just call you. Send your question to producer@estherperel.com. Where Should We Begin with Esther Perel is produced by Magnificent Noise. We're part of the Vox Media Podcast Network, in partnership with New York Magazine and The Cut. Our production staff includes Eric Newsom, Destry Sibley, Sabrina Farhi, Kristen Muller, and Julia Knapp. Original music and additional production by Paul Schneider. And the executive producers of Where Should We Begin are Esther Perel and Jesse Baker. We'd also like to thank Courtney Hamilton, Mary Alice Miller, and Jack Saul.